Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Host Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. Cybersecurity in the Caribbean, a serious concern, according to an IT expert. This story takes the lead in today's edition of Caribbean Perspective for Thursday, 16th November 2023, brought to you in association with our friends at Antillian Group. Details when we return.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all, perils big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Welcome back. IT expert urges CARICOM to take action on cybercrime security. Nika Lewis of CVM Live reports.
In other news, experts have long been warning Caribbean political and business leaders to act swiftly in safeguarding their citizens' data. Those warnings are again being echoed after cyber criminals breached and accessed customer data in Trinidad and Tobago recently, exposing nearly 1 million people. Among the affected is at least one Jamaican and several nationals of other Caribbean states. Senior reporter Nika Lewis spoke with Trinidad-based cyber expert Shivam Tilok Singh.
Nearly 1 million customers of the Telecommunications Services of Trinidad and Tobago, TSTT, were reportedly exposed and had their customer data, including address, cell phone number, placed on the dark web. Trinidadian cyber expert Shivam Tilok Singh says he was a victim.
Early October, they announced that there was a cyber breach. Then they said that there wasn't a cyber breach. Then they did say that some of the information came out, but was not manipulated, etc., etc. Right? Took it upon myself to actually go and look for this online just to see if I see anything. And I'm a person that utilizes dark web to do research, right? Research, testing purposes, nothing malicious whatsoever. I found all the records and I ended up making a quick TikTok about it because I was very angry to see my own information being leaked there.
But it was not until a month later, after some pressure, that he said the company admitted to the breach. But he was not alone. He notes several others, hailing from even Jamaica, were hit.
What I found there was files beyond that, right? So besides TNT nationals that were affected, there were persons of other islands, of other nationalities. Venezuelan, Colombian, Dominican Republic, German, as well as one Jamaican.
He dubbed the incident historic and reminds the Caribbean remains a playground for hackers. Since that incident, there have been others impacting courts and PriceSmart.
This is a massive breach. Even though they downplayed it and said it was only 6 gigabytes of data, 6 gigabytes can do a lot of damage. Essentially, there was information leaked about government officials, from the Prime Minister to the President to the opposition leader to everyone in between. So that information is out there, and I can confirm that.
So what's the way forward through the eyes of the expert?
We need to invest properly into cybersecurity in terms of training programs, in terms of proper infrastructure setup. Again, at the end of the day, a cyber attack is a cyber attack. It could happen to anyone because they're just that good, and we need to be prepared for that. But we need to have something in place to protect our citizens. And these are the citizens of CARICOM as well in terms of proper data protection law.
He's assured only by the fact that the government there has ordered an independent probe into the matter. Nika Lewis, CVM News.
Former Bahamian Prime Minister Hubert Ingram refutes don't run by-election claim.
Well, former Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Hubert Ingram, denying claims that he told opposition leader Michael Pintard not to run an F&M candidate in the upcoming West Grand Bahama and Bimini by-election. Ingram dispelled those rumours and clarified the issue with reporters this morning.
There was a big headline in the Tribune that said, I told the F&M not to run. It never quoted me. It never quoted who told them that story. The facts are very simple. The leader of the F&M, Mr. Michael Pintard, came to see me to ask me my views about the impending by-election. I gave him my views. I also gave him my history. So I told him that he needed to make a decision as to what he ought to do, that the FNM had a great history of running in by-elections and losing. That the only by-election they had won was the one I told you about in 1990 with myself. The decision was his to make as to whether or not they won.
The former Prime Minister also discussed his involvement within the party's by-election campaign.
Of course I support the decision. The party decided, he decided, the party decided they would run the by-election. And of course I support it. And I support the candidate. And I will at least give one speech in Grand Bahama for him before the election.
In the meantime, chairman of the ruling administration in the Bahamas, Fred Mitchell, responds robustly to Hugh Ingram.
PLP Chairman Fred Mitchell is floating around his own theory on why former Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Hubert Ingram, appears to be entering a political back and forth. According to Mitchell, Mr. Ingram's loyalty to the Free National Movement has been called into question lately since he has been seen backing overwhelmingly PLP positions. The PLP chairman is also defending the Davis administration's record on the public service and Minister Blower-Roll's previous pronouncements on its accomplishments.
I take specific issue not only with the record of the public service, but the seat itself. So here's what you have. Weston and Bimini had 3 buildings, which the PLP started before it left office in 2017. The administration complex in Bimini, the administration complex which is being open today in Grand Bahama, and the Holmes Rock School. We lost office. 4.5 years later, the FNM hadn't finished them. So we had to come in and finish them. So he can't open his mouth about neglect. And then he also has to explain to the public how he gave away BTC. Gave it away, sold it at a fire sale, left $50 million or more in cash, which he gave to the new owners. They flipped it for hundreds of millions, if not $1 billion. And we have the worst telephone service that we have ever had in the country. So he can account for those things.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick,
in association with our friends at
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
The private sector organization of Jamaica, PSOJ, is urging the government to re-engage in the National Crime Consensus talks involving a diverse array of Jamaican groups, including the opposition. Ramon Gordon of CVM Live has more.
The private sector organization of Jamaica, the PSOJ, is appealing to the government to return to National Crime Consensus talks to hammer out a unified position on strategies with clear timelines to tackle the threats. Ramon Gordon tells us more.
Come back to the discussions. That's been the plea of the PSOJ to the Andrew Holness-led administration to return to critical crime-fighting talks since it stopped participating in March of this year. Those discussions, led by the Crime Monitoring Oversight Committee, involves the government, opposition, the private sector and civil society representatives with the objective of finalizing the revised Memorandum of Understanding MOU for the National Consensus on Crime. The National Consensus on Crime seeks to identify actionable multi-strategic solutions to get at crime and criminals from the bipartisan, government and community levels. We asked Chairman of the PSOJ's National Security and Justice Committee, Lieutenant Commander George Overton, why the committee has had to be pressing the government to show up.
I suppose it's that government really doesn't like to be held accountable and, brought to book on things that they have promised and make sure that they deliver on time. The Prime Minister has, in the National Partnership Council meeting, indicated that, yes, the government is committed and will be returning to the table. Minister Morris is charged to lead the discussions to bring the government back to the table. And we're urging them with some urgency and alacrity.
The ongoing use of states of public emergency remains a bone of contention for human rights groups and the opposition, which is challenging the constitutionality of the government's continued use of the 2-week-long restrictive measure to help communities terrorized by criminals. In 2020, the Supreme Court ruled that the indefinite detention of individuals under the SOE was unconstitutional, and the detention orders issued by the security minister unlawful. One of the proposed solutions in the Crime Consensus MOU, which the committee is of the view would replace the need for a return to the SOE and put to rest the constitutionality debate, is legislation entitled Enhanced Security Measures.
The establishment of the Enhanced Security Measure Act was supposed to have been drafted as one of the things in the national consensus. And really and truly, whilst we know work has been done, we're not sure where it is and whether it was there. Because one thing for sure, if it was given the priority and met the timelines that were agreed, it would be a tool that could be used instead of the SOE.
In spite of the concerns, progress has been made in some areas. Overton says they include the modernizing of the JCF, amending of the Bail Act, Firearms Act, and Proceeds of Crime Act, and the passing of anti-gang legislation. Ramon Gordon for CVM News.
Just what would it take for St. Kitts and Nevis to avoid the pitfall of overdependence on the Citizenship by Investment program, having experienced the socio-economic challenges on over-reliance on the sugar industry? That's a question many ask in light of revelations of the large portion of the economic pie that the CBI takes. Glenn Bart of SKN Newsline provides some details.
Asked about this looming predicament in a 7th November press conference with Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew in the context of climate change impacts and global financial and economic influences, his response pointed to the need to take sustained action to significantly reduce our overdependence on CBI.
With respect to the CBI, is contributing presently, especially to our current budget, at least 50%. Let's start with that. So it's contributing significantly. I'm aware of that, you're aware of that. Why? Because tourism went down, other industries went down during COVID. And then again, I don't think you can think of any major investments that took place over the last 7 years. You can't think of any. If you think any major investments that brought foreign direct dollars into St. Kitts and Nevis outside of the CBI, there was none. So we appreciate that that's an issue. So what are we seeking to do in terms of cutting our dependence on CBI? We are trying to, one, strengthen sectors and to bring new sectors online and really to do things. And I'll give you some concrete examples. For example, tourism. Why is it we are pushing to increase tourism by 15% this year in terms of airlift, cruise, and so forth? Why is it we are pushing that so much? So that tourism has the potential to generate more for us. And if it does that, it means that our dependence on the CBI will be lessened. Again, CBI is not important. We want CBI to remain. It's critically important as part of our economic structure by the diversification of our economy and making sure that we work as hard as possible to reduce our dependence on multiple things that have nothing to do with us. Food importation and so forth. These prices we don't control. All that is why we want to create a sustainable island state.
From all accounts, it is in this country's best interest to be proactive now to avoid painful economic pitfalls that could come our way. Glenn Bart reporting for SKN Newsline.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel for daily regional news and more, in association with our friends at Antillian Group.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so glad to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family, yes we do, at every opportunity.
Tillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.